Long before history was written, a war shook the heavens and split the earth. This is the Mahabharata, not just a story, but a cosmic saga of gods, warriors, curses, and fate. The battle between dharma and dharma, truth and betrayal, where every choice shapes eternity. Welcome to Dark Whispers, where forgotten legends are brought back to life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell icon and follow the Whispers of Destiny. The ancient halls of Panchala's palace echoed with silence, a silence not born of peace but of brooding. King Drupada, once mighty, still bore the wounds of a humiliation few kings could forget. Dronacharya, his childhood friend, now a bitter rival, had turned his students against him and captured him in battle. Drupada's pride bled, but from that wound emerged purpose. He had not merely dreamed of revenge, he had summoned it with fire itself. From the sacred Yajna pit, the fire gods had granted him two beings not out of ordinary birth. A son, Dhristadyumna, born to one day slay Drona, and a daughter, Draupadi, born not of womb but of divine flame, radiant like the dusky twilight after a thunderstorm, ethereal and mysterious. Draupadi, she was no ordinary princess. She was destiny clothed in woman's form. Her gaze could still storms, her silence could ignite wars. Yet Drupada knew her hand could not be given lightly. Who would be worthy of fire? Drupada devised a Swayamvara like none before. He summoned celestial craftsmen to construct a test that would shatter the ego of the arrogant and awaken the glory of the hidden. A massive steel bow said to have once belonged to Shiva himself, impossible for ordinary men to lift. Above it, a whirling device held a metallic fish, its eyes as small as a seed, spinning fast against the light. Below it, a shallow bowl of water, still as glass. The challenge? To strike the fish's eye, not by looking at it, but by its reflection. Only he who sees truly without seeing shall win Draupadi. Not just strength, not just skill. The test demanded inner clarity, concentration, and the ability to still the world within. Word of Draupadi's Swayamvara swept across Bharatvarsha, not as a mere news, but as a call to fate. Messengers on swift horses, wrapped in royal blue, and bearing scrolls bound with seal of Panchala, galloped through forests, crossed rivers, scaled hill passes. Their voices echoed in the courts of distant kingdoms. In the land of Kampilya, the princess of fire, Draupadi, shall choose her husband, but only who can string the celestial bow and strike the eye of the smiting fish shall claim her hand. It was more than just a marriage proposal. It was a summoning. In the marble halls of Hastinapura, Duryodhana stood before the golden throne, scroll in hand, jaw clenched. The Kaurava prince coughed. A Swayamvara? Is this Drupada's latest insult after being bested by our guru? But inwardly he desired it, to wed Draupadi, to humiliate the Pandavas if they yet lived, to show the world that the Kaurava blood was still supreme. Beside him, Karna's eyes lingered on the scroll longer. He said nothing, but the fire in his gaze betrayed something deeper. Not conquest, but yearning. The daughter of fire, she was not for him, and yet his heart stirred. He vows silently, if fate allows, I will string that bow. In the silent chambers of Bhishma and Vidura, the news brought only worry. Drupada seeks an alliance through marriage, but who is he calling? Bhishma murmured. Far to the west, where the sapphire waters of the western sea kiss the golden shores of Dwaraka, the sun dipped in molten amber. The wind carried the scent of ocean salt and blooming kadamba blossoms, and the city, carved in coral and pearl, glowed like a dream born from Lord Vishnu's own vision. In the sacred gardens of Raivataka hill, under the flowering kadamba tree whose branches bent low, as if bowing to his presence. Krishna Vasudeva, the cowherd prince, the Yadava chieftain, the friend to kings and seers, sat quietly. A divine stillness clothed him. In his hands the bansuri, his flute. Upon his face a gentle smile, not bought of joy alone, but of timeless understanding. As the messenger from Panchala read aloud the proclamation, Krishna did not react immediately. He continued to play, notes soft as the breeze, echoing through the trees like the memory-forgotten song. When the last words fell, silence took hold. Then a faint smile curled at the corner of his lips. So, the daughter of a fire calls out, and the wheels begin to turn. Balarama, his elder brother, clad in white and gold, raised an eyebrow. Another Swayamvara? What game does Drupada play this time? Let the kings compete and boast, why does it concern us? Krishna looked east, past the sea, past the forests, beyond kingdoms and hills, his gaze piercing the very heart of Aryavarta. His voice dropped to a whisper, but even the wind paused to listen. This is no ordinary union, elder brother. This fire was born for purpose, and where 5 winds blow, their fire shall dance. The time has come for me to enter the song. And with that he rose. No conch was blown, the thunder was clapped. But the very skies changed color and the caramba petals rained down at his feet. His yellow silk robe shimmered like dawn. His peacock feather caught the dying light and glowed with celestial fire. From the royal stables his chariot emerged, drawn by white horses whose hooves did not stir dust, only silence. As he stepped onto the chariot, Satyaki at his side, the city of Dwaraka, watched in awe. The people did not know why their hearts stirred, only that their Krishna was going somewhere very important. For the first time in the Mahabharata, God was on the move. And far away in a quiet clearing near the village of Ekachakra, a simple hut sat under a banyan tree. Birds chirped, smoke rose from a humble cooking fire. There, disguised as wandering brahmanas, the Pandavas lived quietly with their mother, Kunti. That morning a traveling bard arrived, tired, dusty, eager to share the tale from Panchala. He spoke of Drupada's grand announcement, of the celestial bow, of the fish and eye test, of Draupadi, the dusky flame-born princess, more goddess than girl. The moment the words Swayamvara and Draupadi were uttered, something stirred deep within Arjuna's chest. It was as if the air around him shifted like a bowstring drawn tight by unseen hands. A tremor and fade, a forgotten thread tugging at his soul. Bhima's eyes lit with curiosity. A bow only a few can lift? I'd like to see this. Nakula chuckled. What princess dares test kings? She must be a flame herself. But Arjuna said nothing. He looked eastward, as Krishna had, and felt the same silent pull. Kunti watched her sons carefully. She understood. A path had opened. She placed her hand gently on Yudhishthira's shoulder and spoke, not as a queen or mother, but as the voice of dharma. If destiny opens its hand, take only what your hearts can carry, but go. Yudhishthira nodded solemnly. We shall go, as brahmanas still. The world is not yet ready for our return. Thus, with modest robes, wooden staffs, and hearts alight with a purpose they could not name, the Pandavas set forth, unaware that the next few days would change their fates, and the fate of the Bharatvarsha. At the same moment in Anga, Karna ordered his chariot readied, his eyes blazing with quiet resolve. In Chedi, Shishupala laughed arrogantly, already seeing Draupadi at his side. In Magadha, Jarasandha frowned, preparing his troops as if for war. In Hastinapura, Duryodhana clenched his fist. If Arjuna lives, I shall crush him. And high above all mortal plans, the divine played its tune. As Krishna's chariot rolled east, across rivers and fields and forgotten forests, the wind itself seemed to chant his name. Birds followed him, leaves turned in his direction. The song of the Mahabharata had begun to swell, and for the first time the charioteer of time himself had stepped into the battlefield of fate. The sun rose over the kingdom of Panchala as if the heavens themselves burned in anticipation. Its gates were garlanded with fresh lotuses and marigold. Silken canopies stretched between stone towers. The scent of ghee and incense filled the air. Musicians played veenas and mridangas on every corner, and dancers offered prayers through their moments. But beneath the beauty, there pulsed a sense of waiting, of breath held. Something ancient will unfold today. From every corner of Bharatvarsha, royalty gathered, some in pride, some in hope, some in greed. Jarasandha of Magadha rode in on elephants clad in steel, flanked by generals. Shalya of Madra arrived with silken tents and 1,000-jeweled spearmen. Shishupala of Chedi laughed with cruel charm, mocking weaker kings. Each carried dreams of conquest, of claiming not just Draupadi, but the power of Panchala as dowry. Then came Karna, uninvited, unaccompanied, clad in gleaming black mail, his sun-like earrings glinting, his gait proud. The princess sneered behind his back, yet none could meet his gaze. From the eastern gate, unnoticed amidst the grandeur, walked the 5 Pandavas, in orchard and dust. Their eyes were steady, their step unhurried. But the earth itself bent in deference. For though unknown to the crowd, they were Pandavas, the very heartbeat of dharma. And seated high above all in the royal gallery beside Drupada and Drishtadyumna, sat Vasudeva Krishna, radiant in yellow silk, his gaze calm, his smile unreadable. He saw the 5 Pandavas slip in among the crowd, and he whispered to himself, "The winds have arrived, now let the fire rise." Within the sanctum of her palace, beyond silk veils and sacred lamps, Draupadi stood in silence. Attendants circled her, adorning her in royal blue and deep crimson. Gold anklets sang at her feet, her long black hair was woven with pearls, and her thoughts floated somewhere else. She had seen kings kneel, poets praise her beauty, but none of that stirred her, until now. In her dreams, a warrior stood, not with crown or jewels, but with a bow of purpose and silence that knew pain. As she stepped from her chamber toward the Swayamvara hall, the lamps flickered, not from wind, but from her peasants. The flame was walking towards destiny. The Swayamvara Mandapa had been built not like a hall, but like a cosmic theater. The task was clear: strike the eye of the spinning fish by looking only at its reflection in water. A feat demanding unearthly focus, strength, and calmness, a mirror of the warrior's inner truth. Priests chanted Vedic hymns, conscious blue. The hall filled with thousands, nobles, sages, spectators, all watching with breathless anticipation. Drupada starts announcing his task. Let the one who would win Draupadi lift this bow, string it, and pierce the eye of fate. Let him prove not just strength, but clarity, not just courage, but truth. The challenge had begun, and fate waited with bated breath. The Shiva Dhanush, mounted on its golden pedestal, gleamed under the sacred light of ghee lamps and early noon sun. Its curve was impossibly vast, forged from cosmic essence and divine intent. Beside it, the great rotating wheel spun, spending the silver fish, its eye tiny, impossible to catch, visible only in the calm waters of the bowl below. A hush fell, the hall became timeless. Then the princess stepped forward. The first was Shishupala, proud and mocking, his laughter bouncing off the stone walls. He gripped the bow, but it did not lift. He laughed it off, spat. Let lesser man strain for glory. I was born to rule, not perform circus tricks. Next came Jarasandha with arms like coiled iron. He roared and pulled. The bow rose an inch, then fell back, cracking the stone beneath it. His pride broke more than the floor. Shalya, Bhagadatta, Vikarna, Dantavakra, all came with pomp and confidence. All left with dust on their hands and shame in their hearts. Each attempt added weight to the silence. The crowd, once murmuring, now stared wide-eyed. The Swayamvara hall had become a temple of destiny. Then footsteps echoed like war drums. Karna stepped forward. The crowd shifted. Whispers rose like wind through dry leaves. The Sutaputra. How dare he? But none could meet with his eyes. Clad in dark armor, his body glistening in the heat, Karna stood not like a prince but like a mountain carved by pain. He bowed before the bow, not mockingly, but in reverence. Then in a single motion he lifted it. The hall gasped. The Shivdhanush rose like a child's toy in his grip. He knocked the arrow, turned toward the platform, and stopped. A voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. Draupadi. She had not moved until now, but she stood tall, her voice unwavering. I do not wish to marry a Sutaputra. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the flames dared not to flicker. Karna froze not because he lacked strength, but because his soul, which had known humiliation and abandonment, had just been denied. He lowered the bow slowly. His face did not reveal pain, but his hands trembled so slightly. He returned to his seat, now without a word, and the hall moved on. Something had been wounded, but that wound would one day bleed into a battlefield. Now no prince moved. And then, from among the brahmanas seated humbly on the floor, a young man rose. His form was unassuming, his robes plain, his head bowed in humility, yet his steps carried weight. Arjuna, son of Indra, bearer of Kampilya, had begun to move not as a prince but as a seeker. The hall watched in confusion. A brahmana? What jest is this? But Krishna leaned forward. His smile widened. The wind had found its fire. There was something in Arjuna, an inner stillness like the eye of a storm. His movements were fluid, his gaze lowered, yet every step carried the quiet conviction of someone trying not to prove, but to fulfill. Arjuna stood before the Shivdhanush. He did not boast, he did not pray loud. He simply took a breath, and for a moment the spinning fish above seemed to slow, as though time itself had paused to witness. Arjuna reached out. The crowd gasped, expecting failure, but the bow rose, smoothly, effortlessly. He strung the bow, not the arrow, bent his knees, and closed his eyes. He did not look up, he did not glance at the fish. His gaze remained on the reflection in the still water. And then, like a whisper, the arrow flew, a streak of flame in the air. It soared upward, clean and true, and with a faint metallic thud, the eye of the fish was pierced. There was no cheer at first, only stunned silence. Then, like thunder after lightning, the hall erupted. Some in praise, others in anger. King stood, shouting, demanding to know the identity of this brahmana. Guards stepped forward, confused and alarmed. But before anyone could move toward him, Draupadi walked forward. She stepped down from the royal gallery, her anklets singing, her eyes ablaze. She moved with purpose. Her gaze did not wander. She walked past kings, warriors, and noblemen, as though none of them existed. She stood before Arjuna, not yet knowing his name, but knowing everything she needed, and placed the garland on him. The garland trembled. Arjuna looked up. For a brief moment, only a breath long, their eyes met. In that gaze, 100 lives were remembered. In that silence, a promise was made. She did not know his name, and he did not yet speak hers. But their souls bowed in recognition. High above in the royal pavilion, Krishna smiled. He had not clapped, he had not moved, but his eyes, ageless and radiant, shimmered with joy. He turned to those near him and said in a soft voice, "The first fire is lit. Let the forest now prepare." Beside him, Drishtadyumna leaned forward. "Who is he?" asked. Krishna replied, "You will soon know, and you will call him brother." Meanwhile, the princess roared with fury. Shishupala stepped forward. "How can a mere brahmana claim this challenge? This is theft." Karna's fists were clenched, not in anger towards Arjuna, but toward the fate that had once again slipped past him. Duryodhana, seated far back, leaned towards his brother. His voice was cold. "If this is what Drupada calls fair, then war may well we fall." The hall was descending into chaos, but through the noise Arjuna remained calm, and Draupadi stood beside him unmoving. The storm had come, and in its center was stillness. The hall trembled not from battle but from truth. Drupada, stunned by the outcome, whispered to his son, "Find out who he is. I care not for appearances, no mere brahmana pierces Shiva's eye." Drishtadyumna moved swiftly, descending the dais, his warriors' gaze sweeping over the 5 brahmanas. He approached Arjuna first, studying his face, the grace, the posture, the scars of training too rigorous for ascetics. Then his eyes widened. The younger two, Nakula and Sadeva, bore the markings of a royal lineage. The eldest, Yudhishthira, calm as moonlight, carried a weight that only Dharma knows. And the giant one, Bhima, muscles forged in fire, silent but coiled. This was no group of priests. These were lions in disguise. Drishtadyumna returned and whispered in Drupada's ear. The king rose in disbelief. "The Pandavas? Alive?" The hall fell silent again. Every whisper, every tale of fire and death in Varnavrata, every rumor of the Kuru heirs burned alive now turned to ash. Kunti's sons in my court? He looked at Draupadi, garland still in Arjuna's hands, and in that moment the truth shone brighter than gold. The daughter of fire had chosen the sons of wind. The sun had begun its descent behind the groves of Kampilya. Shadows stretched long in golden light, bathing the humble forest hut where the Pandavas lived, still disguised as wandering brahmanas. Kunti, serene and seated before the sacred fire, stirred the pot gently, unaware of the whirlwind about to arrive. Footsteps, laughter, a woman's presence. "Mother," Yudhishthira called, "see what we have brought." Without turning, Kunti replied gently, "Whatever it is, my sons, share it equally, as you always have." Her voice carried the weight of habit, of dharma long followed. But when she turned, she saw Draupadi. A divine woman radiant like the flame she was born from, stood behind Arjuna, head bowed, eyes lowered, yet glowing with quiet power. Kunti's breath caught. Yudhishthira stepped forward, his voice solemn. "Mother, she is not a prize, but a bride. She had chosen Arjuna by dharma and destiny." Kunti's hands trembled slightly, but she composed herself. Her voice dropped. "Then my words must bind us still. Let dharma find its path through this fire." She looked at Draupadi and saw no fear, only grace. Back in Kampilya's palace, messengers ran to Drupada in haste. "Sire, the youth who won the Swayamvara is no brahmana. He is Arjuna, son of Pandu." Drupada stood frozen. The goblet in his hand fell to the marble. "Impossible. I saw them die. The fire, Varnavrata." Then Drishtadyumna added, and not just Arjuna, all 5 sons of Kunti live. They dwell together, hidden until now. Rage and confusion warred in the king's heart. He had yearned for alliance through Arjuna, but not the sharing of Draupadi, but the 5 sons. What madness is this? He cried. 5 brothers cannot take one wife. This is not dharma, this is shame. Just then a presence entered the palace gates, calm, ancient and immense. Sage Vyasa, the great rishi, walked in as if he had always been expecting. Drupada fell silent. Vyasa's voice was calm as the Ganga. You wonder at dharma, O king, but forget that destiny writes dharma as well. He told a tale no one knew. In a past life, Draupadi, then a great tapasvini, prayed to Shiva. She asked for a husband of strength, skill, beauty, wisdom and dharma. Shiva blessed her, but said that no one man could possess all these. So she was promised 5 husbands, and now born of fire her boon was fulfilled. Drupada's face paled. Then this was meant to be? Vyasa nodded. She is not like the others, O king. She is the flame that balances the wind. Let her burn in 5 directions, for this is how fate sustains the world. As the sun dipped low, Krishna rode quietly to the forest dwelling where the Pandavas lived. The Pandavas greeted him not as a prince, but as something far deeper. He looked upon Draupadi seated by the fire beside Kunti. The golden light lit her face. She met his gaze, and something passed between them, a recognition of purpose. Krishna turned to Drupada, who had followed. The fire does not choose its path, Maharaj. It simply burns, where fate lays fuel. Drupada finally exhaled. He turned to Kunti and the Pandavas. I had prayed for vengeance, but the gods have given me a family. He bowed to Kunti, to Yudhishthira, even to Bhima, who merely nodded. At last he turned to Draupadi. Daughter, forgive me. I did not know that you would be the flame that lights both our houses. Draupadi remained silent as her father bowed to her eyes moist but composed. And then she felt it, a presence behind her, vast, still, eternal. She turned slowly. There stood Krishna, not with pomp, not with aura of divinity, but with a calm so complete. It silenced her soul. He stepped forward gently, his peacock feather catching the breeze, his eyes holding galaxies. Draupadi stood up, and for a moment they simply looked at one another. No words spoken, yet volumes shared, as if she had known him long before knowing herself. Krishna smiled faintly, with a compassion so deep it felt like the embrace of the cosmos. Krishna, he said softly. Not her name anymore, but a calling, as if he had named her into the destiny. You're born of fire, but even fire forgets its light, until it sees the sun. Draupadi's lips parted slightly, but no answer came. Only tears, not of sorrow, but of recognition. Your journey will not be easy, Vasudeva continued, voice low only for her ears. You will be humiliated, tested, broken, but through you dharma will rise, and I will be there for you whenever you call, Sakhi. He raised his hand, gently touching her forehead, not as a lover, not even as a brother, but as the guardian of her soul's purpose. Draupadi bowed deeply without knowing why her knees gave way. Krishna simply smiled again, and just as silently he had come, he turned and walked back into the forest shadow.